Call of Duty World War II is afraid to be a video game. Obviously, it is one. It's got levels and guns and achievements and multiplayer. It is an video game. Ahead of release in 2017, developer Sledgehammer Games claimed that World War II would be both a return to form after years of much maligned, futuristic settings, and a brave new step for the franchise, a game unafraid of the heavy subject matter most shy away from, ready to push the AAA shooter into a more mature, genuine niche. But come launch, it was neither. World War II doesn't imitate the spirit of classic Call of Duty at all. In fact, it doubles down on many of the things for which the previous few entries were often criticized. The game is poorly written, suffocatingly linear, and dumbed down so severely that I'm certain a juvenile chimpanzee could roll credits on at least Hardened. And as pitifully generic as the name World War II is, it's hard to argue that the game deserved anything more. Because Call of Duty World War II is every war movie, show, and game you've ever watched or played, just done significantly worse. Visual fidelity aside, there is nothing new here. Nothing worth seeing for yourself. Well, almost nothing.
Who sent you?
Herr Spiegel.
Good. Whatever happens, once you make the trade, you must maintain possession of the briefcase at all times.
I've come this far. I'll be damn sure I'm going to finish it.
Taking place about halfway through World War II's campaign, Liberation is set in the heart of occupied Paris. Players control a French resistance fighter, codenamed Rousseau, as she and a British colleague infiltrate a Gestapo headquarters. Rousseau assumes the false identity of Gerda Schneider, a German administrative aide allegedly sent to deliver important papers to the man in charge. In actuality, her mission is to rendezvous with an inside man, conspiring to destroy the stronghold's defenses and open the floodgates for the liberation of Paris. To this end, the player is thrust into a situation in which the Nazis are rarely depicted. At rest, at play, or on the upper floors, going about their official business, paying Rousseau no mind save for cursory checks of her falsified papers. The player is generally free to roam the building, eavesdropping on casual conversation, lifting keys and evidence, and optionally aiding French prisoners. But at all times, they must still act natural, making sure to keep their story straight when questioned, remembering details of their phony assignment and which German officers it concerns.
Sollte eigentlich alles in Ordnung sein.
Sie müssen hier neu sein. Dieses Treppenhaus ist nur für Offiziere. Zu wem wollen Sie?
Polizeiführer Heinrich. Der Wachmann in der Empfangshalle meinte, ich soll diese Treppen nehmen.
Herr Heinrich muss befohlen haben, die Haupttreppe zu schließen. Gehen Sie.
I remember being enthralled with Liberation when I first played it. The concept of a deep-cover World War II espionage game was a compelling one, and after my weekend rental was over, I found myself thinking about it way more often than any other aspect of the game. But unfortunately, Liberation is still part of Call of Duty World War II, and like the rest of it, the level suffers from being designed for an audience that, among other things, is currently asleep. Even though your cover story is spoon-fed to you,
Tell me the passphrase.
Berlin.
accessible at any time, and challenged solely in the form of 50-50 multiple-choice questions, failing the mandatory checks doesn't create a fail state or really affect much at all. It simply alters one line of dialogue before whisking you along as if you'd answered correctly.
Beeilen Sie sich, Weidebel, ich bin in Eile.
Natürlich, mein Herr. Sie können weiter, Fräulein Schneider.
Meanwhile, going the extra mile and exploring off the beaten path isn't actually rewarded. The prisoners you can help are never heard from again. You can't warn your informant that he's been made, and no plans are laid for what Rousseau will do when the doors go boom. Because, just as quickly as it came, this one moment of brilliance is completely discarded in favor of your standard Call of Duty fuckfest, culminating in a literal fireworks display. I think the most frustrating thing about Liberation as a level is that, in World War II's 5 Hours campaign, this is the only time where I can tell the folks at Sledgehammer believed in what they were doing. Liberation is fleeting and imperfect, but for just these 20 minutes, I see the silhouette of the game they'd rather have made. And it wouldn't be the last time. The years that followed were eventful ones from Call of Duty. 2018's Black Ops 4 saw Treyarch's subseries continue its divisive detour down the sci-fi route, notably foregoing a campaign in favor of Battle Royale. 2019's Modern Warfare reboot brought a grittier tone and a shiny new engine, giving way to Warzone, the free-to-play live service that, for better or worse, usually worse, now serves as the basis for Call of Duty as a content platform. But there was an outlier in 2020's Black Ops Cold War. Treyarch and Raven Software's soft reboot brought Black Ops back down to earth, returning to the historical themes and political intrigue for which the first two campaigns were so beloved. Cold War largely takes place in 1981, closer to the original game thematically. But mechanically, it's easier compared to Black Ops 2, with its optional side missions and events that can be influenced by player decisions. While many of these story beats have little to no effect on the game's conclusion, they do a lot for Black Ops' atmosphere, immersing players in a world of conspiracy while deepening the universe that early games cultivated. And no one level in Cold War's campaign does this half as well as Desperate Measures. Desperate Measures takes the concept that Sledgehammer explored in Liberation and widens its scope. The CIA needs a list of Soviet sleeper agents active in the United States, and after other leads come up empty, they realize their only chance is to retrieve the records from deep within the KGB headquarters in Moscow. So they call upon Soviet officer Dmitry Belikov, the KGB's head of security, and also a mole serving the Americans. All Belikov has to do is get Adler and Bell past security. It should be a simple task. Let the Americans in via the basement, secure them some uniforms, voila. Problem is, the KGB knows there's a traitor in their midst, and after a meeting with Gorbachev, all personnel have their keys to that area of the building revoked. All personnel except for one General Charkov. The player is thus set free in the Lubyanka building, free to roam, eavesdrop, and plot. There are 4 avenues to acquiring a bunker key. You can get your hands on a blank keycard and reprogram it to match Charkov's, or you can frame him as the mole and swipe his card as he's arrested. Of course, you can always choose to kill Charkov for his keycard, either striking him down yourself or convincing a political prisoner to get his hands dirty on your behalf. Most of these options give the player a bit of freedom as to how they're accomplished. On a basic level, the player can choose whether they act lethally, non-lethally, or simply avoid being spotted at all. Likewise, you can pick locks at risk of being spotted, or simply look for a vent that leads to where you need to go. If you're trying to reprogram a key, you have to gain access to the armory where the blanks are stored. You could just sneak in, or you could break into the war room and forge the paperwork to let you walk in the front door. Alternatively, you can always bribe the guard with a nice Cuban cigar, procured from an office downstairs. Can I say something? Hear me out. This is an immersive sim. Obviously, it's a dumbed down, overly simplified, and heavily scripted version of an MSim, but the inspiration is there. If Desperate Measures was made for any context other than being a one-time distraction from... it could be something really special. But all good things must come to an end, and once Belikov reaches the basement, it's back to business as usual. Adler and Bell shoot their way to the vault and all the way back to the streets of Moscow. Belikov is apprehended off-screen and promptly rescued by the Americans on their way out. Your choices while playing as Belikov didn't matter. There's no reason to weigh the safety of your options, to act non-lethally, or even to cover your tracks. The level always concludes exactly the same way. That's what really gets me about both of these levels. The concept is fantastic, the presentation is top-notch, but both fall short of their potential because of the game to which they are attached. Solutions must be quick, easy, and must ultimately give way to new reasons to shoot people. But what if they didn't? What if Sledgehammer, Raven, or Treyarch got to make a game that was just about espionage? Clearly, all three can build a tense, authentic atmosphere, but what if they got to back it up with true stakes and consequences? If players were allowed to grow familiar with these systems over the course of multiple levels, there would be room to punish hasty decisions. Imagine a game where you had to work to cover your tracks, lest the enemy grow suspicious and tighten security, where managing relationships with other agents played a factor, trading favors to gain valuable intel. What if pushing your asset too hard could endanger their lives, or asking them to do things they disagree with might flip them against you? It sounds hard to pull off, but nowhere in World War II or Black Ops Cold War does the enthusiasm of the folks behind the curtain shine brighter than in these two levels. And with Black Ops 6 looking to feature a very similar one, it seems this is exactly the type of game they want to make, and one that I've been itching to play since 2017. I know the chances that any of these studios ever escapes the COD mines is slim to none, but I hope with all my heart that one day they'll get to make it happen. I promised y'all a Q&A. What are you looking forward to at Tokyo Game Show? There are signs that Microsoft are going to re-release the Transformers Cybertron games, and I bodily need to play those with my friends without making them buy PS3s, so fingers crossed those rumors are true. Best game this year? Honestly, I've not really played anything new this year. Test Drive was the big one I was looking forward to, and it's shit. There are quite a few indie games on my wish list and in my backlog that I really need to get around to. Victory Heat Rally comes out next week, and I've heard that I Am Your Beast is excellent, and there are good people behind both of those, so you should check them out. Favorite band? It shifts a lot, and you might be better served by checking my last FM. But for the last few months, I've not been able to get enough of Death from Above 1979. Grungiest, horniest dance punk you've ever heard. Link in the description. Best overpriced bottled water. Not a bottle, but a can. I've become a bit of a sparkling water girly lately, and while I don't normally like flavors in my bubbly water, the lime liquid death is my new grocery store splurge. Find a new favorite food? My Ruby makes the best over easy eggs you've ever had. She essentially makes her own chili oil to fry them in, and 2 of those on a French bread burger bun, lightly toasted with whatever cheese we've got in the fridge, gets me wagging my tail real good. Would you be up to review some handheld racing games? So I've done a few, and there are more that I'm interested in talking about, but the problem is that presenting those things in ways that are interesting to more than 3 people is really hard. The only obvious one is the whole, haha, look how shit this is approach, and I'm trying to steer away from that. I've got a couple of ideas, but nothing I'm ready to share just yet. Lastly, but not least, Tempest says, egg bug forever, and yes, egg bug forever. If you know, you know.